everyone, and welcome to the Lone Star Sports Network. I'm Ricky Green, along with Carl Ross, live in the studio from Central Studios of the Lone Star Sports Network. We'd like to thank the Lasting Value Broadcasting Company for making this live broadcast a reality. Carl, a lot of great football in Central Texas tonight, and the Lone Star Sports Network bringing a lot of it to you.
Exactly. A wonderful and exciting Friday night football action taking place under the Friday night lights in Central Texas. And of course, the Lone Star Sports Network bringing you the best in coverage around Central Texas.
And to listen to all of the action that the Lone Star Sports Network has to bring to you every week, log on to www.lonestarsportsnetwork.com. Carl, let's go ahead and talk about what went on not only in Central Texas, which we'll get to later, but the teams within our particular network.
The Lone Star Sports Network, of course, representing the 2A division with the Lago Vista Vikings, who actually took on the Lexington Eagles
and that was our
this
game.
week, and that happened to be our game.
The game that we actually broadcast week in and week out.
And going to give you some exciting football action that took place in Lago Vista, Texas. Moving right along also in the 2A division, the Hamilton Bulldogs, who were away this week against Moody in Moody. So that's also more action that the Lone Star Sports Network will provide the coverage for.
And actually, we have some great news in regards to the Hamilton team. Good thing they were playing a Moody team.
Also moving right along, the Gatesville Hornets took on Waco Conley this week, and wow, did we find some type of excitement going on there in Gatesville.
Well, all the action that we have, it is very exciting action. So you have to just stay tuned to the Lone Star Sports Network on our live show. This is a live broadcast that we're bringing to you. We have been broadcasting the Lago Vista game tonight, you and myself, and then now we're in Central Studios bringing you all of the action. We're going to go ahead and talk about our next division with the Pflugerville Panthers heading up to Bastrop tonight. We have a lot of interesting facts and discussion about that game between Bastrop and Pflugerville. Also, the Conley Cougars, he just mentioned Waco Conley taking on Gatesville, but we're talking about the Conley Cougars here in Austin, Texas, taking on the Austin High Maroons tonight over at House Park.
Yes, along with Pflugerville Panthers in that 5A division, the Conley Cougars took on Austin High, and lots of action to bring forth for you. Lago Vista, the Lone Star Sports Network was, of course, there to provide coverage firsthand and bring all of the fans, the exciting fans in the community, everything that took place. We're doing it first here for you with the live broadcast of the wrap-up show of the Lone Star Sports Network, and it's Ricky Green and Carl Ross doing it once again this weekend and trying to provide coverage to make sure that you are kept tuned in and up to date with what's going on in Central Texas.
Now, let's go ahead and talk about the game that we broadcast week in and week out. A Lago Vista team who was rained out a couple of weeks ago had a very great game last week, rebounding after a disheartening loss against a very good Bandera team with their quarterback, Carl Hubble, at the helm. But tonight, the Lago Vista Vikings rebounding from that loss 2 weeks ago and a very, very overwhelming win last week against the thrashing of the Thrall Tigers.
Exactly, a complete domination, destruction game last week, the homecoming game for the Lago Vista Vikings as they thrashed the Thrall Tigers.
I bet you can't say that 3 times.
Thrash Thrall Tigers, thrash Thrall Tigers, thrash Thrall Tigers.
Wow, and yes, I'm impressive.
They definitely did a lot of thrashing last week. 56-6 was the homecoming victory for the Lago Vista Vikings. And of course, bouncing back from a disheartening loss against the Bandera Bulldogs out of the San Antonio area, coming off of a 34-28 loss as the time expired, and Cole Hubble, as you mentioned, returned a missed field goal attempt by the Lago Vista Vikings with no time left on the clock, and some of the kids from Lago Vista not knowing that that was actually a returnable ball.
Carl, we continue to mention this Bandera game as it relates to this Lago Vista team, but we can't mention it enough because it really took an effect on the Lago Vista team obviously in a very positive way because they've rebounded, but it was just a loss that you'll remember for the rest of your life as a kid. You kick a field goal thinking that it's a game-winning field goal. The opposing team has a man or one of their players in the end zone, which is a legal play, returning a field goal attempt for 105 yards. So we can't express enough how exciting that game was, the game that we had the opportunity of broadcasting. So if you continue to think about why we continue to mention that game, just a very, very exciting game. Unfortunately, the Lago Vista Vikings didn't come out victorious on it, but that is a game that they obviously built on. Tonight was a very good display of how they've rebounded. Lago Vista taking an early lead over the Lexington Eagles in the first quarter, scoring 14 points early in the first quarter, Carl.
Exactly. Coach Hare was doing it on the ground as well as in the air, which he did last week at the homecoming victory as he thrashed the Thrall Tigers. But yes, of course, we do keep mentioning the Bandera game because that's the only loss that Lago Vista has suffered thus far this year. And, you know, a disheartening loss, like I say, not knowing what to do in that situation. Some of the kids actually exited the field thinking that the game was over. They'd be going into overtime, not knowing that the missed field goal attempt was a returnable live ball. And Cole Hubble, who was very heads up and very witty, took the ball 105 yards down the right-hand side, then up the middle for a 105 score, ending the game that was at a 28-28 tie, 34-28. And that being the only suffering loss that Lago Vista has suffered this year.
Sure.
Lago Vista really did rebound and get back on track with a homecoming victory against Thrall and another very impressive, stellar defeat this week against a Lexington team who came off of a win last year and happened to leave a sour taste in the Lago Vista Vikings' mouth. Rick, why don't you reiterate a little bit about what happened last year? We happened to be present at that game in Lexington, Texas.
Well, the most important fact, Carl, about last year's loss at Lexington was it was the loss that did not allow the Lago Vista Vikings to get into the playoff. It was an overtime game. It was decided that the Lago Vista Vikings did not get into the playoffs by 1 point.
Wow. Wow.
So tonight's game was a sweet revenge type of game.
Almost definitely.
And it was a very good game to watch because the Lago Vista offense as well as defense came out ready to play. They came out fresh. They came out in a way that showed early on that they would be the victors tonight.
Well,
again, putting up 14 points early in the game.
And going out at halftime 22-0 over the Lexington Eagles. Coach Holcomb could never seem to get anything established either on the ground or in the air for the Lexington Eagles. Surprisingly, though, coming out of the second half, they did, with the aid of mistakes and penalties by the Lago Vista defense, Coach Holcomb got something established, and the score was cut to a 22-6 lead by the Lago Vista Vikings. And, of course, being concerned with this being Lexington and being able to possibly come back from behind, Coach Hare didn't let up one bit, continued with the ground game.
Well, you know, this game could have really got out of hand for the Lexington Eagles because Coach Hare and his team really made some mental mistakes which did not allow them to get in the end zone as many times as they should have, and this score getting out of hand like it has in the last few weeks. However, Carl, let's go back to the first half and talk about the key players for the Lago Vista Vikings. Of course, we can't mention enough number 40 on the offensive end, Jason Cormier, Brady Land, the offense of quarterbacks, and Jonathan Powell, and the stellar play of Garrett Swan.
I agree. You know, Coach Hare's really done a fabulous job this year of alternating his quarterbacks in each different series. He'll start off with Garrett Swan, number 19, and then mix it up with number 2, Jonathan Powell. And, you know, it's really hard for a defense to try to get settled in on one particular quarterback when you throw another one at him that's just as talented, if not more talented, coming right back at you the following series.
Well, not only that, Carl, but what it is it provides for very flat, fresh legs on the offensive team. You bring one player out, give him some rest, you bring another one in, and again, it's hard for the defense to get used to one type of play and predict what a certain player might do. Therefore, you know, we can't forget about JJ, number 23, the play of Jamarcus Johnson tonight. He actually made a key play early on, Carl, that probably determined
the
flow of the game.
Exactly. The key he made, Rick is mentioning, as the Eagles were marching finally towards the end zone. Jamarcus Johnson coming up with a very big interception in the end zone, which stymied that offensive surge by Lexington. Of course, football being a mental game, kind of dampened the spirits of the Eagles over in Lexington.
The Lago Vista Vikings, again, doing something that we talked about in our 3 keys of the game, and that was that they had to eliminate the mental mistakes. The turnovers and the penalties really cost Lago Vista a lot more scoring that they could have put up tonight, but because of those penalties, the mental mistakes, and the turnovers didn't allow them to put more points on the board. Carl, we're going to stop right there, and we're going to leave it at Lago Vista going into the half, 22-0 over the Lexington Eagles at Sizemore Field. Let's move on.
Well, moving right along to the Hamilton Bulldogs, they actually got some type of surprise this week with their offensive production and came away with a victory in Moody. 23-14 was that final score as the Hamilton Bulldogs pulled out a close game and becoming victorious in Hamilton this week.
Well, you know, they're probably rioting in Hamilton tonight because this is a team that hasn't done very well thus far
On the offensive side of the ball.
What a very, very great way to end the week, because this is what any team prepares for, is to go out week in and week out, and that's to win the game. So congratulations to the Hamilton Bulldogs, of course, the home of KCLW and the Lasting Value Broadcasting Group.
I tell you what, as we move right along to Gatesville, Gatesville came into this weekend's game at a record of 3-1, and they faced a stiff Waco Conley team who actually put up quite a bit of excitement for them tonight in Gatesville, Texas, as the final score ended 43-35. Waco Conley, coming off of a bye last week, drops to 1-3, but the Gatesville Hornets seem to be getting us a big head of steam rolling as they improve to 4-1 this week in Gatesville, Texas.
Wow, great call. Actually, this was a very, very close, hard-fought game as Gatesville and the Waco Conley team went into the second quarter tied up 17-14.
Exactly, and 27-24 was the Waco Conley lead in the third quarter. So Gatesville really coming back from behind and pulling that game out in Gatesville, Texas. 43-35 is your final score in Gatesville.
Well, and it shows a lot of character about this Gatesville Hornet team in order to going into the third quarter, or being behind in the third quarter by 3 points, ending up winning this game by a score of 43-35. Shows a lot of character in order to be able to come from behind and win a game. Carl, let's talk about conditioning and how important conditioning is in these type games.
Well, you know, these teams have had to face the weather that Central Texas has put in front of them. It's been a lot of rained out games these past couple of weeks. We were concerned about the weather being a factor early on at the beginning of this week, but thanks to Mother Nature and some good prayer, we were able to allow the teams to play their games, their divisions this week, and conditioning plays a major factor in the third and fourth quarters. When most teams are tired, the best conditioned team will usually come out on top.
Moving on along here on this Lone Star Sports Network. If you just tuned in, you're tuned into the Lone Star Sports Network. You are watching a live broadcast from Central Studios. I'm Ricky Green along with Carl Ross. Carl, moving on to Bastrop, Texas. The Pflugerville Panthers traveling to Bastrop this week. You know, Pflugerville, an up-and-coming program, much like that of a Westlake program. The last few years, you know, the Westlake team over in the Eanes Independent School District has had very successful programs for many years, and the Pflugerville Panther program over in the Pflugerville Independent School District has been a program alike that